Yes, sir.
Hopefully we'll see you next year.
Appreciate it, yeah.
They say history repeats itself, but in the NHL, it rarely happens this perfect. A Stanley Cup Final rematch, the Oilers and the Panthers, back on the biggest stage in the world, just 1 year after winning 7 games for the Cup. Last year, Florida walked away with the franchise's first championship. Edmonton walked away with regret, 1 game short, 1 bounce away, and still carrying a 31-year drought for an entire country. Now, they're back. The same cores, the same stars, and the same stakes. But nothing about this feels the same. Connor McDavid is once again in a position to silence every question about his legacy. Leon Draisaitl, again, playing like the most dangerous scorer in playoff hockey, but this time, the Oilers aren't just chasing a title, they're chasing closure. And Florida, they don't want to be remembered just for 1 cup. They want to be remembered as a team that took over the league. Matthew Tkachuk, Alexander Barkov, and Sergei Bobrovsky aren't here to prove they belong, they're here to prove that they own it. It's not often you get a rematch this clean, the same matchup, the same tension, but the pressure, the stakes, they're all turned up. And the hockey gods didn't just give us a rematch, they gave us this one. So no, this isn't just another final. It's the one that could define both of these teams forever, because once again, the hockey gods have absolutely spoiled us. Last year's Stanley Cup Final was as close as it gets. The Oilers came within pretty much inches of ending Canada's 31-year Stanley Cup drought, only to see the Florida Panthers win their first ever championship in a Game 7 thriller of a series. That loss left a mark, a heavy one. For Edmonton, it wasn't just the heartbreak of losing, it was knowing they had the talent to win it all, but they just couldn't put the pieces together. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl played like superstars all playoffs, but the team's defense and goaltending showed cracks at the worst possible times. The Oilers knew last season's loss wasn't about changing stars or changing their roster, it was about fixing those weaknesses and getting tougher. So instead of overhauling the roster, Edmonton focused on improving the small details. They added depth on defense and worked on consistency. They emphasized smart puck management and tighter defensive coverage. And the result? A more balanced team that still plays at a high pace, but is harder to beat in all 3 zones. Meanwhile, Florida didn't rest on their championship. The Panthers know winning once isn't enough to build a dynasty. They came back this season sharper and more confident. Their star forwards kept their team's identity of skill and physicality front and center, while their goalie, Sergei Bobrovsky, continued to deliver clutch performances. Younger players like Lundell and Luostarinen gained experience, while veterans stayed hungry and Florida tightened up defensively. They didn't just want to repeat last year's success, they wanted to prove that this was the start of something bigger. Both teams are back with almost the same exact rosters, but with different mindsets and more experience. Edmonton has a chip on their shoulder, and Florida wants to prove that they're no fluke. This isn't just a rematch, it's a battle between 2 teams ready to settle unfinished business. And the beauty of this rematch is that it isn't just 2 great teams, it's 2 completely different teams. Edmonton plays like a storm. When they're rolling, it's speed, it's movement, and it's pure skill. Their best offense isn't just about the shots, it's about pressure. They push pace, they stretch the ice, and they punish you if you give them any sort of space. No team in the league is better at turning a broken play into a highlight reel goal. And at the center of it all is obviously Connor McDavid, but it goes just beyond him. Draisaitl slows the game down when he needs to. Evan Bouchard jumps into the rush like a 4th forward. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has transformed into a superstar center, and it's fast, it's unpredictable, and when it works, it's nearly unstoppable. Florida, they couldn't be any more different. The Panthers, they thrive on control. They don't just defend, they smother you. Their forecheck is relentless. Their gap control is textbook. Their defensive zone structure doesn't break down easily even when it's under pressure. They don't need to score 5 to win. They just need to break your rhythm. And they're physical, really physical. Tkachuk sets the tone up front, while guys like Aaron Ekblad and Gustav Forsling shut things down on the back end. And with other guys like Sam Bennett and Brad Marchand, this team is far from nice. They're not flashy, they're surgical. Every hit, every block, every cleared puck feels like it drains energy from the opponent. So what happens when these 2 totally different playstyles collide? You get a chess match disguised as a hockey game. At the core of this final are the players who drive it, the ones everything runs through, the ones that will shape how this series is remembered, and like I said before, it starts with Connor McDavid. Everyone already knows what he is. He's the fastest, most dangerous player in the entire league. His ability to break games open is unmatched, and his numbers across the board speak for themselves. He's had dominant regular seasons, historic playoff performances, and more than a few highlight reel moments that just don't seem real. But the one thing that he hasn't done in this league is win the Stanley Cup, and for a player like him, that's the last checkbox. Alongside him is Leon Draisaitl, one of the most consistent playoff producers of this era. He plays a more methodical game, picking apart defenses with his passing, finding soft spots, and finishing with efficiency. He's the type of player that always shows up when it matters most, and his playoff resume reflects that. Evan Bouchard has become one of the most important pieces in Edmonton's run. He controls the game from the back end, leading breakouts, running the power play, and adding a scoring threat from the blue line that Edmonton hasn't had in years. He's gone from a pretty solid young player to one of the best playoff-performing offensive defensemen in NHL history. But Florida has its own core, and just like Edmonton, they've been built for this exact scenario. Matthew Tkachuk brings a style that most teams can't replicate. He's physical, he's skilled, and he's disruptive all at once. He can get under your skin and beat you on the scoreboard in the same shift. And in the playoffs, he's only gotten more effective. He plays with emotion, but he's not careless. He knows exactly when to push, when to poke, and when to strike. Alexander Barkov is a completely different kind of star. He doesn't need attention to make an impact. He handles the toughest defensive matchups every night and still contributes offensively. He's calm, he's calculated, and he's incredibly effective, a player who makes the right decision 9 times out of 10 and rarely gets caught out of position. He's not going to lead the league in headlines, but he might be the most important player on the ice. And that is Sergei Bobrovsky, who continues to rewrite his own narrative. A few years ago, it looked like his best days were behind him, but now he's come up huge in back-to-back-to-back playoff runs. He's not perfect, but he doesn't really need to be. He just needs to make the right saves at the right time, and he does that pretty well. His experience, his poise, and his ability to make big stops under pressure have stabilized Florida through some chaotic stretches. Everyone in this series has something on the line. McDavid is chasing down one thing that's missing. Draisaitl is backing up a playoff resume that already puts him in elite company. And Bouchard is proving that he can earn that money this offseason and be the Oilers' #1 guy on the back end. For Florida, Tkachuk and Barkov are trying to build something lasting, not just one cup run, but a legacy. And Bobrovsky is playing to cement his name among the all-time playoff goalies, something that just didn't seem possible a few years ago. This series isn't just about who's better, it's about whose core can rise higher and who steps forward when it matters most, and I'll have 2 separate videos coming out later this week that dive deeper into each team's path to the cup. At this point, it's not just about 4 wins, it's about what those 4 wins can represent. This is a legacy-defining series for these two. They've done everything else you can do in this league. They've won scoring titles, they've won MVPs, they've had record-breaking playoff runs, but another loss in the final, especially to the same team, keeps the never-got-it-done narrative alive. Fair or not, that pressure is still real. This is year 10 of Connor McDavid, and how many more chances like this will there be for him? Down south in Florida, the tone is a lot different. They've already got their cup, they've lifted it last year, but one doesn't build a dynasty. They win again, and they go from scrappy underdogs just 3 seasons ago to one of the best playoff teams of all time. The cup is always the end goal, but this one seems heavier than most. A rematch between the defending Stanley Cup champions and a team that they barely beat. The best player in the world trying to finally finish the job. A franchise chasing respect. A country waiting for a drought to end. Everything about this final feels earned. These aren't surprise runs. These are 2 teams that have got here the hard way, through loaded divisions, tough series, and pressure that never let up. And now, they're back in the same exact spot they were a year ago, but with even more on the line. This rematch, with everything riding on it, isn't just another series. It's a collision of dreams, pressure, and destiny. No matter what happens, this chapter is already unforgettable, and the real story is just about to unfold.
That's not good enough! The finals! Big, right now!